Welcome to Active Love Adoptions podcast. My name is Mackenzie Love, and today we have a co-host, Mindy.
Hi, I am Mindy, and I've been at the agency for, years.
Yeah, long time. Mm-hmm. Yep. And today we are interviewing Brennan, who is a longtime friend of mine. Brennan, why don't we just jump in and you tell us about yourself?
Okay. I was born here in Orem. I'm not too far from here, just above Riverwoods. So adopted out of Minnesota. Grew up with 9 siblings, 9 brothers and sisters.
See, that's something I didn't know.
Yeah. And I can get into that a little bit later if you'd like.
Oh, yeah.
And it's kind of a yours, mine, ours, and theirs kind of scenario, but we were all in the same house at one point, so that was fun. Yeah. Grew up in Orem, live in Vineyard now, haven't gone far. Adopted out of Minnesota. And yeah, we go back to high school, which seems like ages ago.
It was ages ago. It's actually really sad. I feel really old.
Yeah.
Stop.
No. When you start thinking about it, when you start thinking about it, it's like, how did 12 years like that went by really fast?
Very fast.
Very fast. So yeah, like you said, we went to high school together.
We did.
Yep. You were in my sister's grade.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. Had a little thing for your sister.
Yeah, had
back in the day. Yeah.
Had a little fling with her. And yeah, and you told me before that she was actually one of the first people that you told your story to.
Yeah, I think like the full story, right?
Yeah,
As far as like how it affected me, different things like that. Her and your mom. Yeah.
My mom's a good one to talk to.
Your mom is arguably one of the sweetest people I've ever met.
Oh,
I've only met her a couple times, but she had a lasting impression. I don't know if she knows that, but you should tell her.
I will tell her.
And she'll be able to see.
Yeah, and
now
she'll be able to see. So
you're so sweet. You're gonna already make me cry. No, my mom is a saint. She's awesome. She's a lot like Kylie, actually. Let's start from the very beginning. So you were adopted at birth.
Correct.
From Minnesota.
Yep.
Did you have an open or closed adoption?
Closed.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. By request of my birth mom, I believe.
Okay.
So
have you talked to your mom about any of this? Your biological mom?
Yes, recently. So actually, I don't know if you want me to get into this right now.
Go.
So you have met your biological mother.
Like 2.5 weeks ago.
What? I feel like this could be its own podcast.
It is.
Episode. Is that what this is about? Is meeting your... Cut that out.
Yeah, I don't know exactly if that's
it's
what
all
the thing
of
would be.
it. It's just all of it.
All of it.
But yeah.
But maybe I can give you a little bit of backstory.
Okay.
So I grew up LDS, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not anymore, but I did grow up LDS, did the mission, everything. While I was on my mission, I received a message, but as you probably know, as you're a missionary, you can't have access to social media. Yeah. So fast forward a couple years, it was my birthday, and someone had written on my Facebook page, like, happy birthday, hope you have a good day or something. And I didn't recognize the person. So I clicked on the name, and they were from Minnesota. And I was like, that's strange. The only connection I have to Minnesota is my biological mom. But I knew my biological mom's name was Jill, and this girl's name was Julie. So I knew it wasn't her. But I clicked on her profile picture, started going through some pictures, and one of the pictures was like at the bar with my sister, Jill. And like my heart like dropped. And I was like, no way. So then I clicked on that picture, and it took me to Jill's Facebook page. And you know my sister Kim.
Yeah.
She's also adopted. And her birth mom and my birth mom were really close friends. And I knew that. Growing up, we always knew that. And so I had seen Kim's birth mom.
Yeah.
And so when I clicked on Jill's Facebook profile, her profile picture was her with Kim's birth mom. And then it all just clicked. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is her.
This is my birth mom.
What emotion goes through your body when you saw the name Jill?
Yeah, when I saw the name Jill, I was like, there's no way this is a coincidence, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And then once I saw the picture, it like everything, like the room just went like black. And it was just like, no way. Like,
I have chills.
yeah, it was pretty crazy. And so I was probably 24. And so then I put 2 and 2 together, realized this was my biological aunt. And go ahead.
Was this the same person that messaged
Yes,
you
she was
while
the
you
one.
were so diligently on your mission? Because I know a lot of people that would have looked.
So, and that's what's...
Well, now you can be on social media, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I guess probably
Now you
then you
can.
couldn't.
Back then you couldn't.
Yeah.
But I didn't actually see that message until
you got home.
Until
I put 2 and 2 together and realized, oh, I know who she is. I'm going to reach out to her. And so I went to message her and saw that she had sent me a message like 3 years earlier.
Stop.
Oh my gosh.
Basically explaining, I'm your birth mom's sister. I found you through Kim's Facebook. But she'd kind of left the message with like, I totally understand if this is too overwhelming for you. Like if you like don't feel the need to respond. So bless her sweetheart. She thought I was like ignoring her, blowing her off when really I just hadn't seen the message.
Oh my gosh.
There was some sort of divine intervention though. Like there had to have been a reason why that amount, maybe you grew, maybe the mom grew, like there was a reason why you needed that time.
Yeah.
I believe.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so
I think so
neat.
too, because by the time I actually messaged her, she responded quickly and she was actually meeting with my birth mom that night. And so she asked if she could bring me up. I said, of course. And that night was when my birth mom, Jill, added me on Facebook.
Oh my gosh, that's huge.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
But up until that, and then after that, I didn't immediately message Jill because I wanted to be respectful, right? She added me. I'll wait, give her time, give her space, give her time to stalk my Facebook, catch up on the last 20 some odd years. But then I never heard from her. And so then I eventually decided I'm just going to reach out, and I did. And we talked briefly. And then I wouldn't hear from her for a little bit. And so I'd reach out again. And then things just we would catch up a little bit, and then we just didn't talk a lot. And then it wasn't until you asked me to be on the podcast that I was like, you know what?
I don't know what I do.
It's your fault.
It's all my fault. I'm sorry.
No, but I was like, I should use this kind of, not as an excuse, but like if I'm going to do it, I should do it now, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm 30 years old. If I'm going to try to get answers, now's the time. And so I reached back out to her sister, got her new phone number. And that's when she let me know she had moved to Mesa. And I played pickleball.
Yeah.
And I had a big tournament in Mesa. And so I was like, I'm just going to text her and see if she wants to meet up. And that was, like 3 weeks ago.
See,
this
it
is
all
recent.
starts to align.
Yep.
Wow.
I had an idea that by me reaching out, you're going to, take that leap, but I had no idea to the extent.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing.
So what is that? What does it look like? Like where'd you guys meet?
We met, I don't remember the name of the restaurant. I just asked for a local recommendation for a cool Mexican restaurant that was there and asked her if she wanted to meet. And
So what does it look like when you're staring at your birth mom in the eyes? Like what
I think
happens?
for some people it would be like, oh my gosh, because maybe there's some similarity in features or personality. I'll be 100% honest, I look nothing like my birth mom.
Really?
Yeah, if I showed you a picture, you'd be like, okay, who's really your birth mom? Occasionally people will say, like, oh, I can see it in the eyes, or I can see, facial features, but yeah, we don't look like your probably typical mother-son duo.
I don't know. I don't know if there is a typical, I just think that it's, especially in a situation like that where, I think you start to take on the characteristics of the people you're around all the time.
Yeah.
And so you don't have that.
You don't have that.
So it would be just a very interesting catching of the eyes, or it just, it was crazy. So how does it start?
Yeah, it was a little, I don't want to say uncomfortable because that's not the right word, but I think that there's emotions obviously that are involved.
It's got to be a little awkward.
Yeah.
And at first it was a little awkward because, what do I say? When can I say it? Like, what does she want to ask?
Yeah,
like,
do we
does she
just,
feel
like, jump
comfortable
in?
to ask? Like, what?
Yeah.
How do we start this conversation? Right? Like, it's like we all know how we got here, but it's been, in her defense, it had been 30 years.
30 years and a lifetime ago.
Yeah.
Like I feel like, just from my experience, I did a lot of correspondence at the agency, and you've got some birth moms that literally want this experience to be locked up and forgotten for a period or two.
Yeah.
And then you've got others that it literally never leaves their heart. It's right on the surface. And so I say it, yeah. It's just it's such a different experience. And being that you guys were put together at this chance meeting, you don't know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
So your story, of course, is going to be unique to you and her.
Yeah. So what was her response to all of this? How did she respond to you? Did you get the feeling that she was also nervous?
I did get the feeling that she was quite nervous, which is, again, totally understandable. She was very sweet, very understanding. She let me, ask questions that I wanted. She responded honestly. But I do think that she was a little bit more nervous than I was. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I talk to people for a living for my job. So it's, it's no big deal to have a conversation. But again, for her, I think knowing that it started out as a closed adoption, from my understanding, at least, to now reopening that book that you thought you closed so long ago, and not only reopening it, but like reopening it and like starting to read like the fine print and go through a lot of stuff that you've probably put far in the past and never wanted to reopen. Like that, I know can be hard. So for that reason alone, like I was so grateful that she was even willing to talk about it, because growing up here, I've had all these questions my whole life, and so even being able to ask them was huge.
Good. I think as a birth mom, I can imagine everything that she was thinking and everything she was feeling and the regrets maybe she had, or the things she wishes she would have done different, maybe reached out sooner, or what's her personality like? I'm curious.
I mean, from what I would say, again, I met her once. We talked for a few hours. I would say she's pretty shy, pretty reserved, very soft spoken. Where I'm kind of like a little bit more like, what's up, like outgoing, and so that was interesting. But yeah, very calm demeanor. Not super chatty or talkative, but very nice.
Good. So did you get all of the answers that you wanted from that conversation?
Yes and no. I got the answers, but they weren't the answers necessarily that I was hoping or looking for. Mainly surrounding my biological dad, which is still to be determined.
I think that's very common. From all the different times that I had made connections, or people had reached out after what was allowed with the openness agreements. I found that expectations were hardly ever met completely. It was a shift of expectations that had to take place. And what I saw just from initial meetings, it took time and perseverance and, from both parties.
Yeah.
Is she
So, you just kind of open the door.
I think she may be willing to. I mean, without getting into like too many of the details of, her past that I don't know if she'd want me sharing.
Right, yeah.
It was a period of time where I don't know how close she was to the individual. And so originally she had assumed it was someone else.
Okay.
And that someone else had actually moved on and was in another relationship. But then you guys, if you've had kids, you can, as you start talking to doctors and going to appointments, they kind of create this timeline. And I think she kind of pieced two and two together that he actually wasn't the father.
Okay.
And so it had to be this other guy. And from what she was kind of telling me she didn't see him a lot afterwards. She never told him. It wasn't someone she was like super close with.
So he has no idea. Is she willing to, I don't know, now tell him, or have you reach out to him?
She doesn't have any communication with him. So
did she give you a name? Like,
no,
I'll start hunting him down for you.
Wowzers. I'm good at this.
So
I was gonna say, give me his name and we'll find him.
I don't even know if she has it.
Okay. That is something that's part of the progression of this. Like, it takes time. Yeah, it does.
It does.
And she might not have the name.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, true.
That's what I don't know if she knows.
Oh, I see. Okay, sorry, I misunderstood that.
No,
you're good.
That makes sense.
From the story she was telling me, it made it seem like it wasn't like a stranger.
Yeah.
It was someone that she knew more or less, but they weren't super close.
Yeah.
By any means. And so again, like to go back, and even I talked to her sister about it, and her sister was like, I remember him, but I also don't remember his name. And so it's like, could you, go back? I mean, I don't even know if Kylie's 30, but could you tell, someone that Kylie went on a date with 30 years ago that you met maybe once?
Yeah.
You're like,
No.
remember that one time?
Yeah. And so in her defense, like I mean, I can see why it would be really hard to remember, especially if she was under the impression that it was originally the guy she was seeing at the time who she had just called things off with.
That's crazy.
So after receiving all this information, what did you do with it all? Did you have somebody to talk to? Did you, like, what were your feelings? What were your thoughts? How are you?
If I'm being completely honest
which
with
we
you,
want you to be. That's what this is for.
I broke down in the car for about an hour afterwards, just from some of the details of some of the other aspects of it. I'm really bad at talking to people.
Well, you said earlier that you're really good.
No, I mean,
and I think you're really good.
About deep stuff.
I'm okay talking to people. I'm saying I don't like sharing like my
Opening up.
feelings.
Right.
with
I think
people.
that's what I think.
Yeah, I think so
Kinda.
too. And bless my wife's heart.
okay.
She's the greatest person on the planet, and she's so willing and open to talk about it. I don't know. I don't like to talk about it.
Yeah.
Right. It's hard. It's all hard.
So,
Well, and it's so new too.
Yeah.
And I think like over time, there will be times where little things will feel comfortable to talk about, and then you can move from there. And if not, that's okay too.
yeah.
Sometimes it's okay to just.
I think so too. And from my perspective is sometimes it doesn't have to go anywhere.
No.
Right.
And so, you've had the experience, you have the knowledge, and now it is what it is.
Yep.
And so, you can just kind of wrap it up in a pretty little box and say, I did that
Yeah.
and I'm happy with it.
Well, it's still new, so you're probably processing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because I did find out some details. And I think what was hard was I found out details about my adoption for the first time. And so I think for me, it was a little difficult hearing them for the first time, 30 years old,
Yeah.
now in front of my biological mom for the first time.
So hard.
And so, and it's not like it really changes that much, but it was just, I didn't know.
Yeah.
And so it was just, it was kind of hard to internalize the fact that like who I am today, like I haven't even really known the full details of how everything came to be. And so learning that, it was just a little overwhelming, and just with the other emotions that were going into it, it was just, just kind of all hit me when I was driving back to my place.
I think you're lucky it did.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people would have held on to that, and you're going to feel it at some point in your body, but you released it, which is a really good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I agree.
Have you had a discussion, or what have your adoptive parents added to this or wanted to know, or how have they handled it?
So I actually called my mom again when you asked for me to be on the podcast, just to make sure I had all my facts straight and what from her side of the story. She had kind of given me the rundown again, the story that I had kind of grown up hearing. They were always really good. So my mom was single when she adopted me, and then my dad came in the picture when I was 5. And I've known from as long as I can remember that I was adopted. They never tried to hide anything. They were always very open about it. And so I called her to get all the story straight, but they don't know that I've met my biological mom
Until now.
If they were to watch the podcast,
Right.
I don't know that they will.
Right.
But, and I'm going to tell them beforehand.
It's okay.
It's
if you
okay.
don't.
It's okay. And
but
that's
if
the
not,
thing. It's like,
surprise.
yeah. Surprise, mom and dad. No, and I think just like what we talked about before, I think you need to do that on your own time.
Yeah.
And just because this podcast is coming out doesn't mean it has to force you into doing it.
No, I'll
And-
tell them. I just think that, and I don't know, maybe you can give me your perspective.
Yeah.
My mom is an angel.
Yes, she
and
is.
The last thing that I want her to feel is that there was something I was missing or something that I was lacking from her
Yeah.
that caused me to reach out to my biological mom, because that was not the case at all.
Yeah.
Right. And so I don't think she would feel that way. But at the same time, I'm just wanting to be extra sensitive to because I know it's a tough topic for her. And so I'm just trying to.
No, that's just being a good
Well,
son.
and you're hers. You know, like she has, like,
Right.
I'm sure there is just this part of her and piece of her that is like, that's my baby,
Right.
you know?
And I think as a mom, I think you guys can agree, like you want what's best for your child regardless. So if you felt like you needed to go and talk to your birth mom and you came to me and said, I just, I didn't want to make it a big deal. This is something, I'm not emotionally lacking anything. There's
Right.
just some answers now that I have my own kids, my own family
Yeah.
that I wanted answered. And, I didn't want to make it a big deal, but I realize now there's a lot of emotions that I'm feeling and it was a bigger deal than what I thought. Maybe not, and just, I think I don't know your mom very well, but from what Kylie has told me, and I think I've met her a few times.
I think you probably have.
She is so loving and so sweet. And I feel like she would totally understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
But I know from a child's perspective, it would be hard. It'd
Yeah.
be really hard.
I was just going to say, as being an adoptive mom, I would prefer my children come to me and tell me and to be a part of it because I love them and understand it. And it's not about us, it's about you. And just to be there and love you and care for you as you're going through it.
Yeah. And that's what I assume that's what her reaction will be. Yeah. I just need to get the courage to actually tell her.
Yeah.
Well, and there hasn't been much. I mean, it's not like you're hiding this humongous secret. There's just been a conversation. I mean, 2 hours of your life is
right.
2 hours.
And,
And
it wasn't like you were
2 weeks ago.
Exactly. And it's not like you were going out of your way. Like you were going to a pickleball tournament.
Right.
Popped in your mind. It just, it worked out. So,
Well, it's nothing that you have to feel like you need to hide.
Yeah.
no.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
From the mom, your adoptive mom's point of view, it's not anything that's bad.
Yeah.
It's you learning your story, and that's not a problem.
And I wanted to ask, so I said your biological mom, but I meant your adoptive mom when we first started talking.
Oh, okay.
Like, has your adopted mom, what has she told you about, like what did you know growing up? Or what was the idea that you had of growing up?
I always knew that I was adopted. I always knew that, like I said, Kim's birth mom and my birth mom were really close friends.
Yeah.
So that's how kind of we ended up in the same family. And I mean, apart from that, I think there was a lot of, just that they, wanted me and stuff like that, that there wasn't a lot more, there weren't many more details other than that.
Yeah. So were you adopted through an agency or was it a private adoption?
So my mom at the time was working as a paralegal for a lawyer in St. George who specialized in adoptions. I don't know if I don't believe it was like an agency. I just think that was kind of what his focus was.
Okay. Awesome. That's cool.
So how many of your siblings are adopted?
Just one.
Oh, so just you and Kim.
Yep. So
Okay.
my mom was married and her first husband died before I was born. And they had my one sister, Alicia. And then while my mom was single, she adopted my sister, Kim. And then about a year and a half later, adopted me. And then when I was 5, that's when she met my dad.
And then had
My dad was
a million
married.
more.
Well, my dad had been married as well, was married and divorced, and he had 6 kids.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And so that's where we all just...
Where the Brady Bunch comes
Yep.
in.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I love it. I know, just like our family.
Yeah.
It's one big happy family.
And then they had my little sister after they got married.
Awesome. This is
So so do you ever does Kim talk to her biological mom
I'm not sure. I think I know
enough
they have.
to know they were on social media?
Yeah, I know they have. I just don't know to what extent.
To what extent?
Yeah.
So this is all so new for you.
Yeah, very new.
Where do you want it to go?
I don't know because I don't really have expectations because
That's
yeah.
I feel like I've been like growing up here in the family I did with the people that were surrounding. Like I have a great life. Like I have no regrets. I have no like, oh man, I wonder what life could have been if it wasn't this life, And so I don't.
And good for that.
Yeah.
Like that's
I know.
such a healthy.
That makes me really happy.
It makes me so happy too, and I'm sure would make your biological mom happy. Like that's what she wanted.
And I think, and she touched on that a little when we talked, like she got a little emotional, like, cause she's seen, you know, like my kids and I have, you know, 2 of the cutest kids on the planet. And
You're going to have to show me
you know,
pictures.
so she's, you know, she's a grandma and she's seen them and she kind of can keep tabs on what's going on in my life from afar. And so I think that's good. But as far as, you know, what I've had a few people ask me, like, are you going to go back out? Are you going to talk to her again? Is she going to come out here? And the honest answer is, I don't know. I don't know that I have the answer to that. I'm open to pretty much anything, but as it currently stands, I don't know. Zero expectations.
That's a good healthy answer, I think. I mean,
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Did she have any other children?
I was
She
just
did
going to
not.
ask that.
No.
Yeah, that's a good question. She did not.
Okay.
Nope. So no other children.
Did she ever get married?
I don't believe she ever got married. I know she was in a long relationship. And then that was part of the reason she moved to Arizona was after that ended.
Okay.
So,
And what's in Arizona for her? Do you even know?
her grandma.
Okay.
So she's taking care of her grandma, who's kind of in the later stages of life and needs a little bit of support.
Yeah. You said that you're really close with your adoptive family.
Yeah.
And, you know, growing up in Orem, Utah, did you ever feel different being adopted? Did anyone even know you were adopted?
I mean, everyone knew I was adopted because
they?
I was one of 4 black kids at our high school, you know, like I come to school with my sister who looks nothing like me, you know.
Yeah.
I think because of that, like everyone knew, you know, showing up to basketball games or whatever, and, you know, this is my dad, and, you know, you can kind of assume like, oh, okay, he must be adopted.
Yeah.
But for those that didn't, like I was always open about it.
Yeah. Awesome.
So, looking at the situation, after you left that meeting, did you have any feelings of gratitude either way?
Oh, yeah, on both sides.
On both sides.
Yeah, I mean, she almost had me crying at the dinner table because I think one of the biggest, I don't even want to say misconceptions, and we can get into this later too, it was one of the questions on your thing I was reading, but is as far as like, I feel like people have such interesting reactions to adoption. I'll start by saying that.
Yeah.
I've had people where I'll say, you know, oh, I'm adopted, and they'll say like, oh, that's really cool. And I've had people that are like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, how are you, you know, handling it?
So weird.
Right. And so
it's so weird.
And so I think that there's this misconception around adoption as far as, you know, whether you were wanted or not wanted or what the circumstances were. And really what it came down to when I was talking to her was she wanted something better for me that she didn't feel like she could give.
Yeah.
And so for me to hear that and know that, I'm like, damn, like that is
from
like
her mouth.
From her mouth.
Yeah.
Like, here she is getting choked up talking about like probably what could have been one of the hardest decisions she ever had to make, and one of the most like selfless acts that you could possibly do in giving your child up to have a better life, or what you perceive as a better life. And so, you know, whether that's timing, you know, the circumstance that they were in at the time, like, you don't know.
True.
But the fact that she made that decision and did it, like, it was so obviously I'm extremely grateful, one, to her, for even considering that, for being, I mean, I think she was 20, I'm going to forget. She told me how old she was.
Early 20s, probably.
Yeah.
Late
She was
teens,
like
early 20s.
22, I believe. And so, I mean, I look back when I was 22, like I couldn't have raised a kid, let alone by myself. Right.
Yeah.
And so for her to be able to be that mature to make that decision, I think, I mean, I'm extremely grateful to her. And then obviously grateful on the other side as well to my mom, who had lost a husband, was already raising a daughter, adopted another daughter.
Was single.
Yeah.
Still
I know.
single.
She
And now
is
here she
superwoman.
is adopting another kid less than 2 years after her.
So cool.
Yeah. So gratitude on both sides.
That's fantastic. You know, and I think one thing that I would love to say, and I think you are the perfect example of, is that adoption is an option.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that is a statement that needs to be said more. And I don't care what side of the political spectrum you're on. You know, I think that these this story especially is a heartwarming story, and it just goes to the character and moral compass of a human.
Yeah.
And it's an option, and one.
It's an amazing option.
We're all so thankful for you.
Yeah, thank you.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm a huge fan of adoption. I've had a few people reach out that are either wanting to adopt or, you know, are thinking to adopt, and kind of to get my perspective on it. I would argue it's one of the better options. I mean, I know it's a hard decision, but at the end of the day, like,
we just don't hear about it.
Right.
You know, there is, from what you do hear, is there's two sides, but there is this option that is so much bigger and bolder, and, you know, and it needs to be out there. It needs to be publicized.
Yeah,
like,
it needs to be talked about.
It does need to be talked
like,
about.
There's no shame in talking about adoption at all.
No, it is, like you said, first off, you have gratitude for both sides.
Yes.
And I think that is a pretty universal feeling. But so you have gratitude, and like you said, there's such selflessness on both sides. And it is like, that is so much more.
Yeah.
You know, there is so much more to life, literally and figuratively. And I'm so grateful to hear your story. I know that.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, you started dating my sister was it right when I found out I was pregnant?
I don't know if it was right. I mean,
or I was pregnant with Colin at that. Oh, I said his name. But yeah, I was pregnant. I was pregnant with him, right?
Yeah, I think you had just found out. I mean, I was dating her it was like when,
I always forget. Was it your senior year or was it after?
No, it was after.
Okay.
Because I was a
confused.
freshman.
Okay.
In college.
Okay. So wait, were you my age then? What grade were you? What year did you graduate?
11.
Okay, no. So you were.
Yeah, I was a
you were
year
in that
younger.
grade. I forget. Kylie skipped a grade.
Oh.
That's why.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense. She's
Kylie's
smarter
like
than
so
me.
smart.
I got the personality. She got the smarts. Just let it be. Just kidding. But
around that time.
Yeah, because I do remember talking to Kylie about this and being like, well, you need to talk to Brennan. Like, you know, he has such a positive, you know, outlook on it. And for me, I had a friend that placed right before me, and that kind of gave me the courage to, you know, there's a lot I didn't talk about in my podcast because there's stuff that's like really personal to me. Like, I didn't know if Ryan was the dad either. I don't know if anyone really knows that, but I wasn't sure 100%. And there are so many emotions that go into everything about being pregnant, finding out you're pregnant and not knowing who the father is, not knowing if you are going to be able to raise this child, if you choose to raise this child, or if you're even going to give them the life that you want for them. Ryan and I always talk about, we don't know where we would be if we would have kept Colin. That could have been something that, you know, kind of tore us apart. And we definitely saw things differently. I was very LDS at the time, and, you know, he was not at all, which I don't know why he came to BYU to play football. I ask him that all the time. I'm like, what made you do that? My friends are going, okay. But yeah, so I think, like you said, to me, I was adopted by my stepdad, and that was traumatic for me. It was kind of hard because it went from like divorce, marriage, moved to the Mississippi, you know, just a huge life change for me.
Yeah.
And so to be able to talk to Kylie and to know an adoptee that has a positive experience, you know, that definitely affected my decision there too. Yeah. So I appreciate you for being open about it with my mom and my sister, because they, you know, even though they were in Korea when I was going through the thick of it, they were always there for me 100%. Yeah. And you definitely had a part in that. And it's so crazy because, you know, Kylie adopted.
Yeah.
You know, just the circle of life.
Yep.
And the people you meet, you know, it all works out. And I don't know, I'm just extremely grateful for my story and to hear your story today.
Well, glad I could have helped. It was probably a very small amount, but if
no,
anything.
It's huge to hear positive from Adoptee. And like you said, a lot of people don't talk about it. And that's why we are doing this podcast, because we want there to be endless resources for everybody in the adoption journey. So
yeah, I think what you guys are doing is awesome.
Thanks, Thanks, Brennan.
So I have one last question,
Yeah.
and we can, I guess, air it or not. I don't know.
Well, no, we can. I mean, there's probably some more that you want to answer still too, right?
Whatever. Yeah, I'll answer anything.
whatever
you
you
guys-
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm very curious. How has your experience as being an adopted child, how has that translated into the way you parent?
That is a good question. I don't know if I've ever even thought about that question. I think knowing how much my mom wanted me, I tried to be overly expressive with how much I love and adore my kids,
That's fantastic.
and making sure that they feel that.
And what I've just heard in you is you never felt like you and your sister, although you were adopted. I feel like you felt like it was very inclusive. Like I feel like the way that you have portrayed it makes it seem as if you guys were, did you say 9 kids?
Yeah.
You guys were 9 kids.
Or 10 in total.
10 kids.
Yeah.
Like that's, so I don't know. That's how you are.
They were very inclusive. The 6 from my dad's first marriage, they were older. And so we did at one point all live together, but year over year, it was within 3 or 4 years, they were all, out of the house, in college, getting married. And so my core family, I would say, are my 3 sisters. And yeah, my parents did a really good job of, we're a family, we were meant to be together. Again, they, growing up, it was a very LDS, very strong LDS household. So a lot of the religion aspect of that came into, eternal families and that thing. So, very, very inclusive that way.
That's awesome. Well, I think your answer was a really, really good one. And just the fact that you haven't thought about it. That's a great answer.
It is.
So that way you're like, oh man, I felt, I lacked this and I didn't feel this. And so that, the fact that you didn't even think about it is really a great answer.
Yeah. I don't know if this is even going to be a good thing to say on here, but up until the last 2 years, I always was like, I am not going to have birth mom be who I am. I'm not going to have that define my entire life. Just in a sense of there was a lot of guilt that came into it. And there was a lot of what if, especially with my circumstance. And so it was really hard for me. And I felt like for my birth son too, especially, I didn't want him to think that, this, because of what I went through, now I'm doing a podcast or I'm, doing this, but I'm hoping that he looks at this and is like, no, my mom feels so strongly about her decision and what she did. And she loves me so much that she wanted to spread the word and to,
I felt that. I listened to your podcast that you did with Ryan. And I think that definitely came across. You were very, very successful at what you're just saying.
You're really sweet to say that.
It was a success.
Well,
the whole story was a success.
You're so nice. I won't listen to it. I've listened to it one time. I can't do it again. So people are saying things. I'm like, I said that? Probably shouldn't have said that. But I do that a lot.
No, it was adorable. It was really, really
nice.
Cute. So, yeah.
Well, and I had never gone to an adoption panel after placing. And I went and I listened to all these adoptees talk, and it broke me down, and it was kind of hard. But I went with the adoptive mom and my sister, because my sister was wanting to adopt at the time. So it was the 3 of us on one row. So here we are with so many different feelings and emotions going on.
Oh my gosh, I can't even imagine.
And, they asked a question and I rose my hand and I was like, what am I doing? What am I doing? Why am I talking in front of all these people right now? I know better, but I just felt like I needed to say what needed to be said. And after that experience, there was not a dry eye in the room, and we were all crying, and we were all feeling like adoption is so awesome and amazing and beautiful. And from that moment on, I was like, okay, this doesn't have to be this taboo subject for me. And, I was always scared to say, well, I'm a birth mom, even on my social media, because we all know how I am with social media. I just never wanted him to feel like I was ever using it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so after that experience, I sat down with his adoptive mom, and I was just like, I feel like this is something that I need to to do.
so cool.
And she's like, I support you 100%. And she's a saint too. I just love her so much. But
And here's what I'll say on that.
yeah.
He's 12. Is that?
Yeah, 11 or 12.
At some point, he's going to reach, at least this is how it was for me, and it's been a very similar experience with other friends of mine that are also adopted. At some point, he's going to reach a point in his life where he's going to realize that everything that he's known as life is because of you. Does that make sense? And so
Make me cry.
I don't think, at least that's the perspective that, and especially now, like having my own kids and looking at it that way, like I live a great life. But none of it would have been possible if Jill didn't do what she did, right? Could you and Ryan maybe have raised him? Sure, maybe. I mean, you guys have, what, 5 kids? So, clearly, you guys can raise kids, but could you have given him the life that he's going to have?
No. And even looking now, like he does so many different things where Ryan and I have too many kids. We can't do everything for all the kids. And he's so athletic. He literally dominates any game he plays. He's a little DJ. They got him like a whole spin desk, like just loves
really
music,
cute.
like loves
That's
music,
cool.
which I grew up loving music. And so, yeah, thank you for saying that.
I just think it's easy to fall back on like the what if, like what if this, what if that, like what if I would have kept it. And I've done the same thing. Like what if I would have been born in Minnesota to a single mom, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I tend to shift my focus more to like what I have now. Right. And that's where, back to your question earlier, is just gratitude. Like, like I didn't have any control in it. Obviously I was a baby, but I'm very grateful to the people that did have a say in it, because I love my life and it's made a huge part of who I am. And it's something unique about myself that I can share with other people. For you, I mean, again, if it helped you even slightly, when you were considering adoption, like if that's what I can do, if I can have even the smallest impact just by simply sharing my story, then
You're going to help a lot of people. And
You are.
My wish for this podcast is that it streams for the birth moms, for people like you. They need to hear your story. I mean, I've been in the room while these women are delivering their babies, and it is such a rush of a million different emotions. And for them 5, 6, 12 years out to be able to see what may become of their children in the future, I think that's one of the biggest questions. Is what have they become? What do they know? Who are they? I think seeing you will spur a lot of either, calming confidence in themselves, or the desire to either reach out, or, there's just so much that a birth mom will gain from hearing all of this.
Yeah, I've gained so much from you already.
And I think that every circumstance is different. I think every adoption is
For
different.
sure.
And I
Yes.
think that you can't put expectations on it, because every person's relationship is going to be different. But at the same time, there's not a right or a wrong way
100%.
to do it. And so that's where if people are, worried about that, like that can't even be an issue, because you can't set those expectations that early on. But knowing like what possibilities could come from it, hopefully would be enough for you to, open your eyes to the fact that it is an option. It's a great option.
Yeah.
The kid's going to have a great life. The adoptive parents are going to have a great life, especially, for people that can't have kids. And that's
the thing, like there are the percentages of women now or people that are not able to have children is so high.
Yeah.
And so, adoption is such a gift for that reason. Yeah. And there's such beauty in it. Birth mothers, no matter what or who, I'm going to look at the camera now, no matter what or who or how or when it happened, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful decision. It's a beautiful decision. Whatever happens after, it can be beautiful. And that doesn't mean monetarily. That doesn't mean they're going to go back to a different situation. But the fact is that they've done something beautiful. Yeah. It's so, and I've been in the room so many times, and I just, every time, even if like you for the 3 months leading up to the actual birth, the birth mom has literally taking you to the edge of a cliff and where you've almost wanted to jump. Right? Yeah. We can all say yes, that has happened. You look at them and it's so cool because you've been able to give that birth mom unconditional love for 3 months. And I think as the adoption agency, that's one thing that we do is, make the birth mother feel like they are such an important part of this.
Yeah.
And then care for them after. But like being in there, you see that all these women, no matter what their trials have been, have good souls.
Yeah.
And they are good.
Yeah.
Even the worst ones. But anyway, you have opened the door and given us a platform for the birth mothers to see,
Yeah.
This is what becomes.
Yeah.
It can turn out okay. I don't want to say
it is okay. No, it can. And that's the thing. And you've said and I have said and we've all said is that having no expectations.
Yeah.
You're always going to be,
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, right? For me, I was 19 and I wasn't mature enough to even think past, me placing a baby for adoption. I tried to think of his future. I tried to be like, okay, what's this going to be like? What's my future like after this? And it was so hard. You're going through so much and so much trauma and emotions and hormones that you don't have the time to even get there. But I can say now I am at peace just taking it day by day with him.
Yeah.
And being there for him when he needs me. And, I talk like this on the podcast, but when I talk like this, it makes me feel like I need to do better too. Like I need to reach out and let him know how I really am feeling. Because a lot of the time I can sit here and talk on a podcast, but it's hard when it gets down to it.
Yeah.
And so I can kind of relate to your birth mom too, in a sense where I'm sure she has so much love for you. Like I can tell you, I know she has so much love for you. But sometimes it's really hard for us because it's like, I don't feel worthy of you. I don't feel worthy of you. Sometimes that's kind of what I feel like because you are such a special person, especially you. Like I've known you and you always have been like so sweet to everyone. You're always in a good mood. You're always, just cheerful, just calm. Just a good person to be around. And, I think of my birth son almost just like that. Like just loving, just happy to be here, So I appreciate you, being vulnerable and especially because it's so fresh. It's only been a few weeks to be here and to talk about it and to be open and, to the birth moms, to the adoptive moms, to, the adoptees like you. I think you are going to touch many, many people.
Oh, hopefully.
So thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate you being on here.
I do too. Thank you.
Yeah.
I can't wait to hear more.
I know, right? I'm like, I
can
feel
we
like
do a follow-up?
we could talk for hours. So our time is up, but is there anything else that you want to say or mention?
No, I think what I've said, obviously I have strong feelings towards adoption, seeing all different sides, both from people that help, people that have place children for adoption, people that have adopted. And I have such a huge respect for all of you because it's benefited my life dramatically. And so, yeah, any way I can help, I'm happy to.
I think you have.
Happy too. So.
I totally think you have. And then we need to follow up just a gossip sesh. What happened?
Yeah, I'm fine with
anytime.
that.
I know. I'm always like sending in messages. I'm like, okay, so.
Yeah, and again, I'm an open book. So, and I have been honestly to really anyone that wants to hear it. So, cool. If people have questions, I'll answer them, tell them exactly how I'm feeling. And so, if you don't like it, that's on you. So.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you, Brennan.
Yeah.
We really appreciate you.